All right, guys, we're back here at Southeastern 16 on our Saturday night live reaction show. Chase Robertson joins, and Chris Lee will hop on with us here shortly. Chase, what an interesting day of SEC football. I know everyone is going to be tuning in with thoughts on this Alabama-Georgia game. As always, we will bring that up towards the end once this game is officially in doubt, although it's kind of been a one-sided game to this point. 33-15 entering the fourth as we start recording this, because we always start early just so that we can get into the other games of the day. Chase, before we jump into kind of the full slate, earlier Chris did a reaction live stream because it was needed after Kentucky went in and upset Ole Miss in Oxford. So I know everyone has heard Chris's thoughts to this point, but let's go ahead and get your quick thoughts on the Cats going to Oxford and getting a huge top 10 win.
I mean, what a win by Kentucky. What a win by Mark Stoops. I mean, that's a statement win by Kentucky, and I feel like they've had a few really good wins over the years, especially under Mark Stoops. But today was one of those, and you credit Kentucky. They were the better team in that game on the field today. And I thought their defense played tremendous. They got points when they needed them. And Ole Miss just couldn't finish. They had a chance with a field goal and couldn't hit it. It was a frustrating day, I think, for Ole Miss because a lot went wrong for them. It was just one of those days where they couldn't do anything really right. And so it was I feel like a really good statement win for Mark Stoops. And I'm still having a hard time of figuring this Kentucky team out, one that gets blown out on their home field by South Carolina, plays a close one with Georgia, now beats Ole Miss. Like, where do you put Kentucky in all this? I don't know yet, but I do like what I saw from the Wildcats today.
Yeah, I think, again, it's sort of the defense and Ole Miss. I mean, the question coming out of it, again, guys, if you're joining in, we did, already mention that Chris did the video earlier talking about that game in particular, so you can find that here on the channel. So we won't go into that as much as we usually do for a big game like that on the Saturday night show, because we did decide to do something this afternoon on that. So you can check that video out there. But so Kentucky gets a huge win at Ole Miss. We'll ask Chris when he hops on if he has any additional thoughts that he didn't mention earlier on that game. Again, if you are hopping on, we're going to talk about this Alabama-Georgia game once it gets closer to finishing, which should be shortly here in a little bit. But Chase, let's jump into some of the other stuff from the day, and let's go ahead and just knock this one out real quick too, because we can get through this one quickly. LSU is going to get a dominant win over South Alabama. We talked about coming into the week for LSU, they're a team that sat 7th in our power rankings, and I feel like they've just been sitting there and sitting there and sitting there for a while, because it's like, we're not real confident in moving them up into that upper tier of teams just yet, but you don't feel like you can move them any further down, because they did win the game at South Carolina, even though they trailed big. You kind of see how their season has played out. Brian Kelly's been frustrated at times with the consistency and such, but they're going to get a dominating win over South Alabama. Garrett Nussmeier was, for, at least as it stands right now, 414 yards, had a couple touchdowns, a couple interceptions too, but LSU racking up 600-plus yards of total offense against a team that had no trouble racking up total offense in recent weeks, after South Alabama put up 87 against Northwestern State and 48 at App State. So,
yeah, and this surprises me a little bit. As Chris and I were doing our prediction video earlier in the week on this one, I know that South Alabama has they lost 2 to open the year that really they should have won. But I thought they would have competed in this game a little bit more than they have. But I think that just shows what LSU can do offensively. And, LSU is one of those teams, again, I feel like I'm still not sure what to do with yet. We'll see more of them when we get into SEC play, I feel like, to learn more about this team. But I think that's a good start of seeing where they're at, what they were able to do offensively, and just able to have their way, really, so far.
Chris, quick thoughts on LSU, or any additional thoughts you want to add on Kentucky Ole Miss? We started with those couple before you hopped on there.
I haven't watched any of LSU for obvious reasons. Figured that'd be a cakewalk, and it has been. I think they were up big at half. I mean, I guess the defense has played okay for them tonight against a South Alabama team that can put up some points. So that's That's a start after losing Harold Perkins. But, yeah, I mean, my attention's been on this Georgia-Alabama game for the most part.
Anything else you want to add on Kentucky Ole Miss you didn't have earlier? Any additional wisdom that popped up since that video
No.
6 hours ago?
Just to recap, I think Kentucky's defense is every bit as good as we thought it would be. I know that Ole Miss hadn't played anybody, but I thought that Kentucky just controlled the trenches. I thought their secondary was outstanding without their best corner there, which I didn't. I mean, like, if you say, hey, you're about to go to war with Ole Miss and you're not going to have Max Hairston, I'm like, man, you got to cover Juice Wells, Watkins, Priestcorn, all those guys. And I mean, that was just amazing. I mean, two things I just didn't see coming tonight were that and what Alabama did to Georgia in the first half.
All right, Chris, I'm going to throw it back to you to lead the way after I tell everyone about our good friends at Bet Online, of course, the world's most trusted betting platform, and they are raking in some money today if you bet on Alabama. Your number one source for everything football. Bet Online is every stat, every matchup, live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Of course, if you know your stuff, you can get on that $200,000 mega contest we've been telling you about. Pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200,000 when it's over. Head along online casino, play some blackjack, poker. Plus, they have over 150 slots games there. So head to the website today, get on the action, bet online. The game starts here. And Chris, I will throw it to you as always, guys. If you're hopping in, super chats are welcome. And be sure to, again, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button if you're hopping in. We will talk about the Georgia-Alabama game as it gets closer to finishing here, or as it gets closer to being in Alabama's favor officially, as they are still up quite a bit here in the fourth quarter. So,
have we talked any about Auburn, Oklahoma?
For the sake of Auburn fans, we have not yet got into that game, but we can now.
Well, let me give you an interesting perspective. I'm watching 2 games at once here on my SEC football afternoons. And so that game is coming down the stretch about dinner time. And I'm like, I'm going to hit the pause and come back and watch it. I'm not going to check Twitter. I just want to see what happens. And so when I go for dinner, Auburn's up and I think has the ball maybe. And I come back and my wife has got a TV on at another point in the house. And I look up and Oklahoma is ahead. I'm like, what? So as I'm watching the Auburn game going down the stretch, and I'm like, okay, they seem like they are completely in control, but I know something's about to happen. I'm thinking, I bet it's a turnover. It was a turnover. I mean, that game changed on 2 plays. They hit the big 62-yard pass after doing nothing. And then Auburn throws a pick that Peyton Thorne got baited into, a pick 6 by Kip Lewis. And then if you looked at Thorne, I think the next series, he just wasn't anywhere near receivers. I mean, I feel a little bad for Peyton Thorne. But I mean, you look, that was a statistical domination. And the weird thing about that is, like, Auburn had been -2 in turnovers in every game. And up until that point, Auburn did absolutely everything it needed to do to win. And it's playing the team that's probably better than anybody in the country at forcing turnovers. And they didn't do it for basically 3.5 quarters today. And the one pick just sunk them, Chase.
It did, yeah. I mean, that came at the worst possible time. It was like you were sitting there watching this game and thinking, "Wow, we're going to go through this Auburn game. They're going to be able to, 1, get a win, but 2, not turn the ball over." And then, yeah, it came at the worst possible time. Oklahoma able to score off of it. And yeah, I feel for Peyton Thorne, here's the problem. I feel like for Auburn right now, and this has been the problem the whole time Peyton Thorne's been quarterback. When he turns the ball over, he can't recover. And we saw that. They had 2 opportunities with the football after that pick 6, and they couldn't. He got sacked 4 or 5 times on those 2 series. They couldn't do anything because, I feel like it's a mental thing with him. He can't get out of that. You saw that at the beginning of last season for Jalen Milroe. He would turn the ball over, and he couldn't come back from it. He's been able to work through that, and I think that's what Peyton Thorne really needs to work through this season, is not getting so down after he turns the ball over and not letting that dictate how he plays the rest of the game and what the game goes. I feel like Auburn had some opportunities to still win that game late in those two series towards the end of the game, and they just couldn't do it. And I mean, again, Oklahoma came through when they needed to after a gift there from Auburn. But yeah, I really like that long pass play from Oklahoma to get them to score. I guess to put it within a touchdown and then able to get that pick six. And yeah, I mean, again, Oklahoma was gifted, but they did what they needed to down the stretch to get the job done.
Chase, I want to ask you, or I'll ask you guys both. Chase, I'm going to ask you this one because you and I have texted about this one. Why does Jarquez Hunter not get the ball more? I mean, there's 3 losses. He's averaging 5.7, 5.6, and 5.7. And he's gone 17 carries, 12 carries, 12 carries working backwards.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. I asked that question to a friend of mine who's close to the program there at Auburn, and he said with the RPO that Auburn does, that Peyton Thorne just sees the other options before they go to the run, but I think that's something that Auburn really needs to figure out and find a way to get the run game going. Specifically with Jarquez Hunter, I thought he ran the ball well in the first half, and again towards the end of the game they kind of went away from that, and I don't know, it's mind-boggling.
Well, I mean, just to stay on the Auburn thing, and then Chris, I'm going to transition to Oklahoma for a second because I think it's wild when you look at all the numbers for Oklahoma. But we talked about the importance of this game for Auburn because why? Like the next 3 games are now at Georgia, at Missouri, and at Kentucky, which that's a game probably going into the season we'd have said, all right, that feels pretty, kind of a neutral type game, low spread, whatever. I don't know what that's going to look like at the end of October now, based on, again, kind of the way Kentucky's going, based, after winning at Ole Miss. So, yeah, like the fact that they could not finish a game like this, knowing the importance, and I think you had mentioned it, Chris, like, how many more games is Auburn going to be favored in now the rest of the season? I mean, what, 2? Vanderbilt and UL Monroe? That's probably it, right?
Probably.
So, yeah. I mean, and look, I mean, the Vanderbilt one could be, who knows? I mean, it depends on where the Commodores are, I guess, in a month from now. But, yeah, so like it was just such an important game. And I think that's what, when you really look at it, for a team to get their first 5 games at home and thinking this was going to be the turnaround year, and you come out 2-3 and you lose the game in not just this game, but you lose the Cal game the way they lost that one. You saw how things played out against Arkansas, and now just completely deflated heading into just 3 absolutely brutal road trips now against, yes, I mean, if Georgia loses this game, we know Georgia's going to be angry. Missouri defensively, what are they going to do to this Auburn offense that struggled? Kentucky the same way, right? So it's tough for Auburn right now, I think, just based on looking ahead. So, but I wanted to add this too, Chris, on Oklahoma. If you're Oklahoma and you come out of this game and you just hide the score, all right? And you brought up a little this a minute ago. But if you just hide the final score and you look at some of these numbers and you tell me what you think the outcome is of this game, when Oklahoma has 11 first downs to 26 for the other team, they're 2 of 11 on third down, 291 total yards, 10 penalties, time of possession's about 10 minutes in favor of the other team, and you're going to go on the road and win 27-21 in SEC competition before you now get a nice, sweet week off before you get to play Texas. Couldn't have drew this up any better for Oklahoma right here.
You had 47 snaps if you're Oklahoma to Auburn's what 70 something. Let me do the math on it. 32 passes, and where's their rushing attempts? I think it's 40 something. 43.
Yep.
I mean that's and like again, you've got Jarquez Hunter on the other sideline. Like, and okay, you're going to give up a pick six, so what? You still win the game with those stats, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean,
this, yeah.
I don't know how you explain it. I mean, I do know how you explain it. We just explained it for Auburn, but Yeah, I mean, if you're Oklahoma, like Oklahoma is now sitting here at 4-1, and think about like we said, like you've been able to pick this team apart a little bit. But again, I think it's the same thing. Like the defense comes up with a big play, and that's what we said. If you're going to come into this game and feel like you can trust one of these teams, to me it was all right. Which unit on the field do you trust the most? And I thought coming in it was Oklahoma's defense. You didn't think it was going to play out that way until you kind of got to that final sequence there where it was Oklahoma's defense that came up with the biggest play of the game. So
I think for Oklahoma, my takeaway was Michael Hawkins really came into his own late in the game. He had the big pass. And also, did you see his 2-point conversion?
yeah.
I mean, he outran 3 guys to the pylon, went head first, and scored. I mean, that was – if you're blocking for that kid, you've got a little pep in your step seeing what he was able to take on. I mean, I think that's the most exciting thing Oklahoma football's seen on offense all year.
I think he could be a good little spark for Oklahoma offensively. I mean, get him going, get him loose. On that first long run he did, I thought, oh my goodness, he's going to be something else. And obviously they were able to adjust and stop that. But still, I think he's going to be a good spark for Oklahoma there.
Yeah. And J.J. Hester was the guy that caught the bomb. I mean, we've talked about a lot of Oklahoma receivers. I'm not sure we've talked about him yet. I mean, they didn't have today.
Well, they didn't have most
Anthony,
of their receivers.
Nick Anderson. They didn't have. Did Burks play?
No.
Right?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, in addition to the box score, that too, right? It's like there's just no way. But that's all.
That's why the line swung. Yeah, I mean, Oklahoma was a 2.5, 3.5 point favorite at one point, and then by game time I think Auburn was favored by 1.5 or something. So. Like, that was a big swing. It was because of all the injuries you had. I mean, Oklahoma's injury list was just as long as I've seen for a team at this point in the season, early in the season, I guess you could say. So, yeah. What about the Hogs, Chris? Rusty's in here. Rusty is, again, as Rusty says here, 1-score loss, second this year. Oh, just the Hogs can't find a way in this one. Texas A&M with the victory in Arlington.
Yeah, I was surprised. I thought Arkansas matched up pretty well. I think A&M's pass rush kind of showed up today, and my concern for Arkansas was that you needed to get Taylon Green. You need to get that completion percentage up a little bit from what it was. Just didn't happen. Defense played well at times. Yeah, I don't know. I'm disappointed in Arkansas. I mean, Arkansas is so close to being 5-0. I know it doesn't matter. I know they're getting sick of close losses, but I thought that was there for them, and just didn't happen today.
Yeah, I thought that would have been. Yeah, I mean, I thought Arkansas was going to win. That's what I said in our prediction video. But again, Texas A&M did what they needed to do defensively down the stretch to make that happen. And I thought Marcel Reed had a great game for A&M. Maybe he's what kind of they needed offensively. But yeah, that's tough for Arkansas because again, I thought they were going to win the game. I thought they could, and I mean, we're at a point. It's again tough. We saw this so many times last year. Close losses for Arkansas where they couldn't get the job done, and again we're seeing that again this year for the Hogs.
Yeah, beating themselves was another theme that we've seen. -3 in turnovers, 10 penalties for 75. And Blake, you went where I was going to go with A&M next week with Moss.
Well, I was just going to say, I think as you're watching the game, it wasn't just you can look at the numbers. He had 13 carries for 117 yards, but he had a couple just strong runs, that came, I think, at the right time. And I thought that was a big part of it too, certainly late. But yeah, he really stood out, and I think that was something where, again, kind of knowing that, you've had a quarterback swap there at A&M so far this year, and, you certainly look at someone like that who has had pretty much he's had 70 or more yards in every game this season, but really the last, 3 games, I guess. I mean, he has gone 90 plus, 110 plus twice in that stretch. So, yeah, I mean, I think, keeping him as involved as you can get him and just seeing some of the strong runs he made that was a big part of this too. So.
Yeah, speaking of wanting do-overs, you'd certainly like that Notre Dame game over if you're A&M, because Missouri next week, that's a big game all of a sudden.
Yeah, it really is. And, things would be much different. Yeah, you get that Notre Dame game back. But, I mean, I'm really intrigued by that game next week. And, as we start thinking about that on later this weekend and into Monday as we start rolling these things out, that one's going to be an interesting one to think through and talk through.
I think A&M, if you look ahead, guys, I mean, not even just really beyond that game, but like, look, there's no such thing as an easy schedule in the SEC. And, if we'd have said that weeks ago, like, look at just what has happened in the SEC over the past couple of weeks. But if you're comparing Texas A&M's schedule on paper, which is, again, fear if you do that, because that's just not working out really well these days. But, they get Missouri at home. They're at Mississippi State following a bye. Home against LSU, at South Carolina. They go to Auburn, who, like we said, who knows? They get that Texas game in College Station. I would say A&M, most teams would want to have that schedule right now in terms of having some of those big games at home, having games that will be tough on the road, but are certainly winnable. I think all three of the road games they have left. I mean, as of right now, wouldn't you say if you did the spread, they'd be favorites at Mississippi State, at South Carolina, maybe to a little bit of a smaller extent, at Auburn. So, I mean, how many teams can say that in terms of maybe just being right here at 4-1 and feeling like it's a team that we're still seeing if they're going to take that next step in a couple areas. But that's why, again, these were pivotal games. I mean, I know you guys talked about it, but like that Auburn-Oklahoma game, this game, A&M and Arkansas, you think about just how huge in terms of swings and momentum for the winning team, and then on the wrong side for the losing team in these two games, just based on, what's ahead now. So,
Blake, you guys chat for a minute. I will give you an idea of what they're going to look like in their remaining schedule in terms of lines. I just need to update a thing or two here quickly. So,
all right. Well, while we're doing that, we will quickly do a little reset. Again, if you're hopping on and you're wanting us to talk about Alabama, Georgia, we will do that as soon as it is at least official in terms of who's going to win. I know Georgia's getting a chance to cut this to a one-possession game with about 7 minutes to go. So if you're watching on replay, you already know what happened. You can skip ahead. But, you can, again, be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button if you're joining us for the first time. You can also leave us a super chat. That'll make sure we get to your comment. Hit that little $ button with the heart there, and you can leave a super chat. We'll get to your comment without a doubt on there. Or you can be like Justin Holland, and you can join the It Just Means More tier here at Southeastern 16, $3.99 a month. That is a donation tier. You just donate to the channel, lets us do more live streams for you guys, make more of these videos. So we appreciate you watching here on a Saturday night, late for some of you if you're on the Eastern time zone, but maybe early for some of you as well. You may be out in California hanging out watching SEC football at 7:50 something at night. So there you go. All right, Chris. What are you working up over there? What kind of magic are you working?
I'm just throwing all the games left into the model. I'm almost done.
All
Let's
right.
see. And this
Hope
is
that model is
what
super.
This is what it is pretty close to giving you what the lines are going to be most weeks. But it's okay, here we go. Next week, Missouri, that is at A&M. Let me double check that. Yeah, that's correct. That is basically a pick 'em.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Mississippi State, and this is not based on what happened today. This is just if you'd set the lines going in today, they would have been about a 13.5-point favorite at Mississippi State. That might be low, although A&M doesn't score a ton of points. So I think it'll probably be higher. The line will probably be more than that. They will be about a 2-point favorite over LSU, about a 0.5-point favorite at South Carolina, about 37 against New Mexico State. They'll be about 2 points over Auburn. I bet the line will be more than that, although that's on the road. And they'll be about a 13-point dog against Texas.
Interesting. Well, speaking of Texas, why don't we transition there real quick since we're getting close to the finish of this Alabama game. Texas gets the win over Mississippi State. It was not as convincing as the point spread may have suggested, and boy, this Alabama-Georgia game. It does not want to let us get away here because this thing's about to be a 5-point game potentially with 5 minutes to go. But quickly, let's run through Texas, Mississippi State real quick, guys. The Longhorns get the win. Of course, Quinn Ewers did not play. Yeah, you're several bit behind here, but Georgia's about to score. And yeah, this could get interesting. But Texas wins 35-13 over Mississippi State. Ewers did not play, as I mentioned. Arch Manning's under center. This was more competitive than I thought it would be for Mississippi State. I mean, this was, a bit of a game here, but Texas winds up getting the win. You guys have any thoughts on the Longhorns, who turned it over a couple times here, a couple fumbles? And yeah, that was kind of the story here.
Yeah, I mean, you go on a road on the you get into a game like this against a team, obviously that is in the bottom of the league. Maybe that was what was going on with Texas, but yeah, not quite. I feel like what I would have expected to see from Texas. Yes, a big win, 35-13. But maybe as far as play, yeah, they turned the ball over a couple of times. Maybe just at times just didn't quite look in sync and able to get it done like I thought they would against Mississippi State. But a win's a win for Texas. Arch Manning, 26-31, 324 yards and a couple of touchdowns. And so he also had a rushing touchdown as well, and got some receivers involved. So, it was a good win for Texas. But, yeah, maybe not like I thought it would go down.
What little of it I watched, Arch Manning was terrific. Just looked so smooth back there. And even though it was close at halftime, one thing I think we mentioned in the preview is Texas is probably as deep as just about anybody in the country. And that's going to be a big issue for State, and especially on its front seven. And that's kind of what happened second half. Depth took over. But, hey, State hung in tougher than I thought. I mean, Michael Van Buren went on the road for his first start at Texas, which is not a great place to to make your first start, but I thought was respectable. Didn't throw a pick. Johnny Daniels has kind of taken over their running game a little bit. He's leaped a couple of other guys that I thought would be in front of him. So I thought State played respectably. I think for Texas, you knew it was probably going to be a game where everybody expected them to win and win big. They got a bye week next week, so I think a little less excuse for that. But it was what it was. Now I'll be interested to see what happens in the polls next week if Alabama wins this one, which is not decided as we're doing this. Do they leap Texas?
Well, I think and that's the thing. Arch Manning, you mentioned if you didn't watch the game, like he goes 26-31 for 324 yards, 2 touchdowns, and as Chase mentioned, had a rushing touchdown as well and 33 yards rushing. But like I know for sure one of those may have been another. Those incompletions. So 26-31, only had 5 incompletions. One of them was just a complete drop on what would have been a touchdown on a very long pass play. I think it may have been to Cook. Hopefully I got the right receiver on that one. But, yeah, I mean, that was, again, he put it right there on the money and should have been a touchdown. It wasn't. But that's how smooth and good he looked in terms of the efficiency in this game, which, he should have against this Mississippi State team that, as we said, has really struggled quite a bit this season. And, does not get any easier for these Bulldogs as they will head to Georgia on October the 12th after a bye week. So,
I think we've hit everything except for this Alabama-Georgia game, haven't we? Yeah. I was going to ask, anything nationally worth unpacking for just a minute for playoff implications? I think Louisville got beat by Notre Dame, so that throws a little bit of a wrench in the ACC.
Do you want to rant about Miami, Virginia Tech, Hail Mary, or what?
Oh, man. Well, hey, I don't know why whatever the call is on the field, I still don't know what the right call was, but I don't think you had the evidence to overturn it. And yet they did.
Well, if you're watching this live, as Tyler notes here, this is a game now because we always do our best here. We tell you guys this every week. We're like, we start a little bit early. Depends on which game, and we have a game like last week, Tennessee-Oklahoma, right? Tennessee was up big, but then Oklahoma has a chance to drive down and make it a one-possession game, and we're like, all right, we need to hang around a little bit. We thought when we started this into the third quarter, Alabama was up 33-8 or 33-15. Now it's 33-28 with 5 minutes to go. So you guys may have a a buzzer finish here along with us to see how this game ends. But again, if you are hopping in, leave your super chats. Let us know your thoughts, all that good stuff on the games of the day, where you're at with your favorite team. Are you optimistic, pessimistic? I know there's some pessimistic ones out there right now based on a couple performances today. But, yeah, anything else you guys want to talk about, let us know in the chat, and we will be able to fully form our thoughts on Georgia, Alabama once the game's over. But, Chris, we can go ahead and get into it now in terms of, how this thing is played out, and certainly we will talk about the implications of the winner and loser once that is decided here in a few minutes.
Before we do, I've got my weekly rant coming up. But before we do that, I'm going to say something a little more pleasant. My son watched games with me all day, which is kind of becoming a Saturday tradition. I don't know, Blake, you've got one, a young one, or another one on the way. I don't know if you ever try to explain football to your kids. It is nearly impossible. You get asked probably hundreds of questions over childhood. And with that, oh boy.
Sorry, I'm not referring to what you're talking about here.
I know. I'm about to see it.
Oh my goodness. All right.
Anyway, I wanted to give a shout out to a new sponsor, Future Fans. They are an innovative brand. Oh boy. Alabama's inventing innovative ways to make people a football game as they fumble the kickoff. Anyway, Future Fans is an innovative brand that helps little kids become big fans by embedding the rules of football into parallel games and activities. The product is behind me. You can't see it on my screen. It is a really cool, nicely put together box of different things, books. It is $49.99. It is a great value. Here's the first product in the series. It's a book that you use to explain football to your kids. I'm going to be telling our folks more about the experience with Future Fans more in the coming weeks, but what they do is they teach fundamentals to kids about football. I've heard some amazing testimonials from friends. The way they teach football is unique. Kids can understand football, and they actually do this for soccer too, in a way that they really have fun with it and get into the game. Anyway, I'm going to be telling you more about this in stages in the coming weeks, but trust me on this one. If you have kids or even grandkids, Future Fans is the way you get them interested in football and explain it to them. It is only $49.99. Go to futurefans.com, and if you enter the promo code SEC, you'll get 10% off. Help out the folks who help our show. This is a super cool product, and we were really, really happy to be sponsored by them.
All right. Well, one fan base is going to be really happy here soon. We're going to find out which one that's going to be with the way this game is playing out here. Alabama, Georgia. But again, we can go ahead and jump in. I mean, obviously we'll address if there's any huge game-changing plays here. But, I mean, if you guys, Chris, thoughts on what was obviously a very unpredictable first half in terms of how it played out. Of course, this game has gotten much closer since then, but just what has stood out for you with this Alabama-Georgia game to this point with 4 minutes to go in the fourth quarter?
Well, I'll get my weekly rant out of the way. We're headed towards another 4-hour game, which is inexcusable. We put a man on the moon, but we can't get college football games under 4 hours.
Hit the like button if you only are here for Chris's rant.
Why do we start this at 6:45? Why don't we start it at 6:30? I mean, really?
Man, it's TV. We got money, sponsors, all kinds of stuff. Oh boy.
Okay, that out of the way. That first half, like Chase, you and I really had no idea what was going to happen. We both picked Alabama. I don't think anybody in their wildest dreams imagined a first half like that.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I think you could have put Alabama out there against the Kansas City Chiefs and they would have done that. I mean, they were fired up for the game, and I think that showed. Like, I think they just had a lot of momentum. They were throwing things out there, and you heard Kirby at halftime. If you listen to his interview, Alabama was putting things out there offensively and defense that they hadn't done all season long, and really threw Georgia off. And Carson Beck was not on his game. But you knew, I mean, it's Georgia. They can get themselves back in it, and they are right now. And so I thought that was good for Alabama to cause some separation there to start, because again, Georgia was in a hole. They're having to come out of it now. It would be a different situation if Alabama had not started off with pedal to the metal there.
You know, they've talked so much about how Jalen Milroe is a perfect fit for what Kalen DeBoer does. Man, the first half was just putting that all on tape, guys. I mean, I thought that the throws for him, they'd scouted Georgia really well. They were easy throws. I mean, he hit at least his first 11 passes. He was unstoppable on the ground. And there was, 30-7, and it could have been worse at half. There was an awful obvious PI that didn't get called. But I do wonder too if they lost a little focus.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. Oh my
I'm
goodness.
getting texts and I haven't seen the play yet.
You gotta be kidding me. What is this game? Oh. I mean, obviously I can spoil it for anyone.
I have no idea what happens
in the world.
I can spoil this for anyone
safety?
who is behind.
Where's your tackling?
This is going to be unbelievable on the replay. I'll tell you that, listening or watching this on the replay, our live reactions to this. But, oh, my.
Holy smokes.
Wow.
Carson Beck has just thrown a 67-yard touchdown and put Georgia ahead. I mean, Carson Beck looked awful in the first half.
Chase and I were talking about that. I mean,
awful.
He did not have a great first half at all. Missed throws, had guys open and just missed them. I mean, the interception, what was that one on the seam? Like, that was just brutal. And here we are, though. Like, say what we want about him, but they're going to have a 1-point lead with 2.5 minutes to go, down 28-0 in this game midway through the second quarter. And Alabama's going to have a chance to drive to win it.
I'm just getting a flurry of texts from my brothers. Like, everybody's 30 seconds ahead of me.
Wow. You know, here's what I'm sure you guys saw it, but like on the Alabama third down play, I don't know how he didn't get the first down. I don't mean it was a bad spot. I mean, it looked like he was there to get the first down, and then it's like he just I don't know what happened. Like, I know he got tackled, but it looked to me like there was an opportunity to get the first down, but it just didn't happen. There have been a couple of those plays in this game like that. But
okay,
wow.
So Georgia's now ahead, didn't get the 2, so field goal for Alabama could win it. Chase, I know Graham Nicholson was like an All-American last year. When I've seen him this year, he's looked a little shaky at times.
I feel like he's not like he was last year, but he can come in clutch. So we'll see what he can do here. If it comes down to him getting an opportunity here.
Wow.
How many Georgia fans went to bed at halftime and are going to wake up in the morning, turn off their phone?
I don't know if they went to bed. I think they may have had a few beverages.
Sleep.
May have had a few beverages to. I'm not sure, but I think there were certainly some people in my family I know that are Georgia fans who were certainly trying to figure out what was going on. Oh my goodness! I can't. What is this game? What in the world is going on?
I still don't know. Chase, are you?
Oh my goodness!
I'm behind you, Chris. I have no idea.
This is the greatest live stream we've ever done. This is the greatest one ever.
That kid's a cheat code. Oh my goodness. Have you seen it yet, Chase?
No, I haven't.
Oh my. This is either Ryan Williams' first or second best play of the night.
What's Kirby doing?
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
Incredible.
Oh my.
Absolutely incredible.
That kid's a cheat code.
Oh, you guys, all hundreds of you who have tuned in for this live stream, you have made one of either the best or worst decisions of your life, because we're giving you this for free, and we could not have guessed that it was going to turn out like this. So, wow. That is the joys of the live stream, I guess. But Alabama is now up a touchdown, 41-34. After we just thought
Holy smokes, Ryan Williams just.
Ryan Williams
I
may
gotta
be
see
one of
that
the best
again.
receivers Alabama ever has.
I was
mean,
going to ask Chase that.
What are you
I was
doing
just about
getting
to
up
ask
talking?
Chase. Yeah.
Okay, you get the two. The last thing you want to do is get a penalty. Did you not learn from the first half?
Chase, who is the closest in comparison to Ryan Williams? I mean, and I know
Julio
look, he's a
Jones.
freshman, but okay, yeah, that's what I thought you would go there.
Somebody, I had an Alabama buddy of mine text me and comped him to Amari Cooper, which I thought was pretty good too. Julio was kind of bigger. I mean, they're just so smooth.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what
Yeah.
Cooper was too. He
I
ran
know a guy who
he ran in between him by two guys, and then the guy had a chance to get him again, and he beat Julian Humphrey, who's a pretty good player. Little chicken fighting going on, but by both sides there to get open. Holy, and the kid's still 17 years old. Oh, and the ball was a little bit behind him, just a tad. Had to jump in the air, turn around, and then spin and win a foot race.
Chase,
I mean,
you were
he's
going to add
incredible.
something on that.
Yeah,
He's
so
the
I know
best
a guy
freshman
who
receiver we've seen in a while.
Yeah. Kind of going to the Julio Jones comparison. I know a guy who covered Julio in high school. Julio and Ryan Williams are from high schools that are very close together down in the Mobile area, South Alabama. And so I know a guy who covered both of them. And he said just watching their game is very similar to each other in high school and as they got into college and kind of how they started college. So I think it's a good comparison. Just they're both so smooth at the receiver position.
Well, Lucas agrees with us. Greatest live stream ever here at Southeastern 16. So mark this down, folks, in your diaries, your journals, whatever. An all-timer here on the, and we still got a full 2 minutes to go in this game, and if this thing goes to overtime, I don't know what we're gonna do. So, yeah,
I'll drop my protest about length of games because if they're all this good,
Chris ranting about
I'm
this, about to
good.
have one of the greatest games ever. And
Holy
Chris is
smokes!
mad because it didn't finish 3 hours ago.
I feel like Alabama's going to score again and Georgia's going to score again. Like Georgia's going to score here, then Alabama's going to come back and get one at the buzzer.
If I'm these two defenses, I'm full on prevent at this point. I'm bringing everybody back. No 70-yard plays, anything but at this point. So.
Alabama's been putting the pressure on, and
Yeah.
obviously Georgia's figured out how to get through that in the second half. But my goodness, and they haven't done that this year. Alabama hasn't. So if they keep doing that, I mean, that's going to cause some trouble for some teams.
Well, and Georgia played without Tate Radlerton. Somebody went out about 10 minutes ago. I could not see the name, but they lost another offensive lineman in the fourth quarter.
I didn't catch who it was either. I did see that.
That's the thing. Alabama's defense was preventing the big plays, and they were talking about that, Herb Street and Fowler, like how they were just pretty much daring Georgia to, keep it in front, and they weren't going to let anything in terms of those game-breaking type. And then look what's happened, right? Then you just kind of have this scenario where all of a sudden those plays are really opening up for Georgia, and it's completely kind of changed the landscape of the game. So
they, I think they said Alabama brought more pressure in the first half maybe than they had the first three games combined, if I understood that correctly.
Yeah. I could see it without even knowing how much that happened in the 3 games previous, because it was nuts. So yeah, by the way, Matt, noted Kentucky fan. Yeah, Matt. So some of us are still watching other games. I know you thought the day ended after Kentucky Ole Miss, but some of us are still watching other games. And if you're like Matt and you want to get our thoughts on that, or actually just Chris's thoughts, Chase had his thoughts earlier on in this live stream. But if you want to get Chris's thoughts, did a 30-minute live stream this afternoon on the big upset in Oxford. So you can go check that out on the channel.
That. So thanks for coming back, Matt.
Matt was there. So Auburn fan checking in. All in for the 20 overtime. This will be the greatest live stream ever if it goes to 20 overtimes, because I don't know what we're going to be saying 4 hours from now. So it may just be me left on the stream, but I'll make it worth it for you guys. Yeah. So Auburn fans rooting for probably anything they can get at this point, after some of the recent disappointment.
What's worse if you're Georgia, losing this by like the way you would have lost it in the first half if we didn't, or losing it like you finally go ahead and then you give up one like that?
I think it's the first half.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't spot the other top 5 team 28 points, right? My goodness. It's just, again, if you play this out how many times does Georgia spot Alabama 28 points? And unfortunately, they did it tonight. It doesn't matter about the other times. They did it in this game. So,
has Alabama in the history of Alabama football ever blown a 28-point lead?
Oh, God, Chris.
I'm guessing not.
Oh, Chris, you should have never said that. Alabama fans coming for you if they do this time.
I'm guessing no.
I mean, I can't. There was that Iron Bowl in 2010 when I forgot how much Alabama was ahead and Cam Newton led the comeback, but I don't remember how much that was. I just remember him coming back on Alabama.
SEC football says he feels better about Tennessee beating either of these teams now. I don't know, SEC football. We'll see. What else we got? I mean, this is just one of those where it's like we're in a holding pattern here based on how this game. What's the 2-minute warning has lasted about 8 minutes. There you go, Chris. You want my rant? The 2-minute warning shouldn't last longer than the 2 minutes.
Do we like the 2-minute timeout?
I do or Chris does until the game gets to 4 hours. You want to cancel the 2-minute warning. I think it's fine.
Somehow we have fewer plays and longer games.
Well, blame the 2-minute warning. How about that? Well, and that's what it said. A 5-minute commercial for a 2-minute warning. I don't like that, but got to make
the NFL's figured this out. They get the game in 3:05, maybe 3:10.
Yeah, NFL, they stick to the windows pretty well, but oh, Matt, the Lane Kiffin troll job. Well, I mean, it's Lane Kiffin. So, all right, we'll see how this plays out here, and then we'll be able to finally give you future thoughts on either Alabama or Georgia based on who wins this game. But of course, I'm ahead, so we'll know what's going to happen before. I'll let you guys know before anything big happens. So you'll know by my reaction. I'm sure the facial expressions on the replay are going to be tremendous. But again, guys, if you are joining us, leave a super chat if you want anything, any questions, comments, any of that, you can. And yeah, as always, check out everything we got on the channel here, and we'll have power rankings up on Monday, more thoughts on these teams coming out of these Saturday games and all that. So, yeah.
I'm interested on those commenting that they feel better about Alabama and Georgia. If you're a Tennessee fan, you feel better about them. I want to know, why? Why do you feel better about Alabama and Georgia after these games? I'm impressed with both of them.
I would caution people a little bit. I think what we're learning is blowing out helpless teams is not always a good indicator of what kind of football team you got. Now, I think Tennessee's plenty good. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't blame them for thinking that. But, I mean, Ole Miss looked pretty dominant. Now Tennessee has played, Oklahoma can at least defend. We know that. Maybe offense not so much, but.
Yeah, it's like this is big play coming here. Ooh. Yeah. Big third down stop for the Tide. It's going to be 4th and 2. Game likely on the line here. Georgia still has their 3 timeouts, but
let's hear some play-by-play, Blake.
Yeah, look, Chase, this is your thing. I'm not the play-by-play guy, but I may have to do it here as Alabama, going left to right on your radio dial here. Or Georgia is. They got to get the team right. That's always a good start when you're doing radio. But so Georgia's going to have a 4th and 2 here from Alabama. I don't know, 48, 47, something like that.
Georgia's still got 3 timeouts. So even if
I was going to say, so the game's not, and Georgia's going to convert here. So
although field position's going to be pretty lousy if they were to get it back, I would think.
Yeah, so Georgia's going to convert. Yeah, sorry for the spoilers. I don't want to spoil anyone. So But if you're watching at this point, you're invested. If you're watching us now, because we're doing the same thing you are. We're just, we're watching as you are as well. So, Lucas says because he thinks it's going to be a rock fight. Yours haven't stood a chance against either team. I think Tennessee has a chance in both. So there's one of your reasons for that, guys.
Yeah. That's a good reason.
Clint's ahead of us.
Clint, is the game over? Who won? Are you that far ahead?
Blake, you're like 30 seconds ahead of me, and Clint's ahead of you, so how far behind am I?
But, yeah, for sure. Tyler is too, apparently. So, I thought I'm the TV I'm looking at, like, is usually the one in the house that's, like, way behind everybody else. So, I don't,
My office TV, I think, is third of the three that I've got in terms of following this.
Well, we've reached the point
I'm watching the timeout, so I must be way behind.
Listen, we've reached the point in the live stream where people are asking for beard advice in the comments, as Matt brings up here. Wants to know if the facial hair grows in perfect like that, or do I just have a great barber? This is just the way it works, Matt. Some of us can. It's just, it's okay, Matt. Like, your team had a good day. Don't think about the lack of facial hair. Think about the victory. Think about Mark Stoops and the clean-shaven, non-bearded man that Mark Stoops was to put your team in position. We got a minute to go here. Georgia's got third down. The Alabama clock's running, or second down maybe here. By the way, Justin wants my thoughts on the Vince McMahon documentary. Justin, if you search for my wrestling channel out there, you can find it. I've already been reviewing it. So search for the Mr. McMahon review, episode 1, and you will find me somewhere, I promise. Anyways, back to the games. 1 minute to go, Chris.
Okay, Georgia, where I am, Georgia just took a timeout at the 1 minute mark on second down.
There you go.
So I don't know how far behind that puts me.
Well, we're still there as of right now, but we'll let people we'll let people chime in as they want. Don't worry, Matt, me either. So and we'll see what happens here. I mean, this is the longest 3 minutes of football ever. I agree. Remember, we were talking about 2:48 to go about 20 minutes ago. So we still got a minute left in this game. So Chris's rant led to this, I must say. So
if you make it this good, I don't complain.
Again, the reactions here are going to be incredible. Like, imagine if you're someone who just, decides to go out and buy yourself a nice book on Audible or something, a nice fiction book. You can just take the last 20 minutes here.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. See?
Wow.
You saw it too. So.
I still hadn't gotten there.
We got Chase's.
What happened?
It's my internet.
Speed up Chase's internet here.
Okay.
So 3rd and 8, Georgia. Still going left to right on your radio dial here.
Pretty good coverage.
Oh, somebody jumped.
Kirby's visor hadn't stood a chance today.
No, it was not. So, not at all. Not at all. So, yeah, this thing, I'm telling you, I guarantee you, if you guys want to bet a super chat, I don't even know I don't know how we do that, but
did they jump or were they drawn?
This game's going to go to 4 overtimes. Guaranteed. Mark it down. We're going back to, what was it, Arkansas? Who was it? Arkansas, Ole Miss, Arkansas, Kentucky.
Alabama.
At the Matt Jones days. Wait a minute, am I thinking of the right quarterback? What's the guy, Arkansas quarterback?
That sounds
Matt
right.
Jones? No. Matt Jones that's the Kentucky Sports Radio guy.
I think there were.
All right. Well, there you go. That'll do it, friends. That's your game there. The Alabama Crimson Tide are going to escape Tuscaloosa with a 41-34 victory over the Georgia Bulldogs after a game-clinching interception. I would have given you my best
Yep.
Eli Gold or Chris Stewart radio call, but There's no
Got
way
the
I could have
pick
done
there.
that, Chase.
Chase. Oh, Chase hasn't seen it yet.
No,
Oh,
I'm still
sorry.
waiting.
He's still waiting. All right. Well, we're going
All
to come
right, here
back
we
next
go.
week when.
Oh, nice grab there.
The
Yeah.
best part is we've got it in 3 stages. Blake's way ahead of us, and then I'm a little delayed, and then your Chase is.
Oh, boy.
Chase will find out tomorrow what happened.
My goodness. I'm sorry, Clint. I can't help it. What am I supposed to do? Just sit here and not have any reaction to.
I think it was almost better
unbelievable?
that way because at least I know something's coming that's kind of interesting. So
Yeah. All right. Well, we all got to go to bed. So let's quickly run through. I mean, we'll get into the full ramifications of what this means on the power rankings, and I'm sure we'll do some videos next week talking about this. But thoughts coming out of this now that we know Alabama has won the game. Thoughts on Alabama, thoughts on Georgia, moving forward, all that good stuff, guys.
Well, I think for Alabama, when you start like that, I mean, and I know Georgia made the kind of corrections they needed to, but you got to keep your foot on the gas the whole time. But I really like what I saw from Alabama. Like, I feel like this is that top. There's a reason they're number 4, and I feel like we saw that tonight. Jalen Milroe looked fantastic. We talked about Ryan Williams. He's got a great receiver there to go to. They were able to get the run game going some. So, and the defense was able to really shut down a really good quarterback in the first half of Carson Beck. So I think Alabama's sitting in a good position. I think Georgia being able to make the adjustments to come back, I really like that. I mean, this was the great game we were hoping for, and it wasn't in the first half, but boy, we had it in the second half. So I like where these two teams are at. You know, are they as great as maybe we pictured them being to start the season? I don't know. And I feel like it's hard to base it off this game just because so much just happened. And I still will have to process this. But I'm interested to see these two teams moving forward. I think we'll see a loss for both teams, another loss maybe for Georgia possibly. I think we'll see a loss for Alabama somewhere along the way. But these are two teams that and hey, we may see this game again. I wouldn't surprise me any if we saw this game again.
I think we have to move Alabama to number 1 in the power rankings. I asked the question last week. I just said basically I think our power rankings are meaningless because I think the winner of this one's got to go to the top. So I will rank Alabama number 1. I think Alabama's not a perfect team. I mean, they gave up 500 something yards tonight. A lot of that in the second half. You had some busted coverages, stuff like that. I think they can play a more aggressive game. We saw them do that in the first half on defense, and they've got the speed to do that against an offensive line, even without some of their main cogs, probably still as good as anybody. So I think that's a takeaway. I think discipline and maturity, you need to see a little bit more of that. You had the penalty before the half that gave, Georgia the penalty on the kickoff to start the second half. You saw the, little talking after the 2-point conversion that didn't get called. But you got to be a little smarter than that if you're Alabama. But holy cow, that stuff aside, that offense, they got 547 yards in 65 snaps. These guys are explosive. And they did it against Georgia. And I think that's, they've shown that all year. They've been averaging, I don't know, 8 yards a play or whatever it's been, and that they even topped that tonight. Ryan Williams is just might be the best receiver in the league right now. And you got some good ones in this league, but I think he's probably the most talented one. He's only 17 years old. When Milroe had it going tonight, looked fantastic. For Georgia, I think I was glad to see Georgia didn't just get smashed both halves, because then we'd have some questions. I think Georgia showed enough to show you that they can still be a contender. I think that makes things more interesting. When you win 40 regular season games in a row or whatever, I bet Kirby Smart hadn't had to give whatever halftime speech he gave in a long, long time. I think these teams are both still contenders, but just, if it weren't for Travis Hunter, and I don't know how – that when the guy plays both ways and is outstanding, that maybe that's your Heisman winner. But I thought Jalen Milroe, he put himself firmly in that conversation tonight, Chase, for the Heisman.
Yeah, I think so. And there's again a lot of football to be played, but yeah, you got to imagine he'll be in those conversations right now because that was one of those games that gets you, if you're not in the conversation, to the top of that conversation.
Curious to see what Bet Online. I'm sure we'll update the odds, but I'm curious to see what the odds are for these two teams to make the college football playoff and how they change after this game. Because again, like we said, it's different this year with the expanded playoff. But I'm curious to see what those numbers are, and we'll bring those up on the power rankings on Monday because I think that will be an interesting look at how those numbers change following an Alabama win and a Georgia loss. I think that's probably the more intriguing of the group because it is a loss and seeing your path to get there, like we talked about before. So.
Yeah, I don't think they might be an underdog at Tennessee, but they won't be an underdog. And I don't think they won't beat LSU. Although that game could be interesting because LSU can put up some points too.
Curious. Because, like we said, I think Georgia, the odds will still be, I think, fine for them. But I'm curious how the number changes after this loss is what I'm fascinated by because they've still got the Texas game. And like we mentioned, the other tough games as well. So that's the Ole Miss and such. All right. Anything else, Chris? I know we've gone long here, but the last, as the noted game time expert here, the last 2 minutes of the game lasted about half an hour. But anything else you want to wrap up with so we can send everyone off to bed and they can enjoy our thoughts on everything else on the replay. So,
yeah, got some interesting games next week. I guess I'll get to see Alabama in person here in Nashville. Arkansas, Tennessee could be interesting. Who knows what do you get with Auburn and Georgia? That's always strange. Ole Miss at South Carolina will be very interesting after today. Missouri at A&M, I think, is a fascinating. We just got a lot of really good games next week. I feel like this week was a week we kind of said we got one great game and we're not sure about the rest. Hey, from here forward, maybe that next to last week of the season, I feel like we got some fantastic football ahead of us.
Yeah, should be fun. So again, we appreciate you guys watching and or listening. You're watching and listening on the replay as well. We know we probably took you for a roller coaster there, but if you wanted to know our live, responses as the game was going on, if you're watching this tomorrow or something, there you go. So yeah, Matt, we are. It's 11:40. It's 11:40 your time. It's not 11:40 our. It's 10:30 our time. So
it's still
it makes
bedtime,
us 8 o'clock.
Makes it even older. So yeah, they don't want to admit it, but there you go. So yeah. That's true. You had some good games this week, so it's interesting. So, hold on. Before we jump off here, we were waiting on this one the whole stream. At the very end, this is like the grand finale. After Alabama gets this thrilling victory over Georgia, here comes Donovan, noted Auburn fan, jumping in with the comment of the night. Great. Now we're about to play a mad Georgia team. We're about to lose 50-0. So, there you go. Yeah.
By the way, if people are wondering, I did a separate 30-minute live stream after Kentucky Ole Miss today. So if you're watching this on replay, didn't catch it or whatever, and I think Blake, you mentioned that earlier. But if you're
as I say, you can
coming
watch
in now,
on the channel.
We talk about that later.
Yeah,
or
you can watch it on the channel in a separate video, or you can listen on the. I put that up separately too on the podcast feed. So if you guys want to check out Chris's thoughts on Kentucky Ole Miss, you can do that in a separate video. So there you go. All right, Chris, we can wrap it up. Clint, we appreciate you joining. Appreciate everybody else joining us. Hundreds of you in here watching this, thriller to finish. But yeah, we appreciate you guys as always here on Saturday night. So,
Chase, parting thoughts.
I'm still trying to gather my thoughts. What a game we saw there to end the night. It was a good day though, and yeah, I think it sets up great conversation for next week that we'll have for you here on the channel. Get ready for another week of SEC football.
Seriously, was that maybe? I'm just thinking, was that maybe the best SEC regular season game we've seen since maybe Tennessee, Alabama 2 years ago? I'm sure I'm missing somebody, but that was up there.
maybe the second half. I mean, I think
Yeah.
it's like it feels like so long ago, but that game was just. I mean, Alabama was up 28-0. It looked like it was going to be worse. I mean, it thought it would be 35-0. Like it was just they were steamrolling them. So, but
See, I think that's part of it, though.
well, I
The
agree.
fact that
No,
there's
you.
no way
Yeah.
they're gonna win this game. You know, there's like we're thinking Alabama might win this by 40, and not only that, I mean Alabama had to come back in the final 2 minutes and win the game.
It's up there for sure. I don't
Yeah.
doubt that. I think Tennessee Alabama, that one was probably for me still
Yeah,
one of the wildest I've ever seen.
I think
but
that was the best
yeah.
SEC regular season game maybe
Chris,
this decade.
Chris, don't bring that up now. Don't bring Alabama fans down talking about the Tennessee Alabama game. They just got this thrilling win against Georgia. You got to bring up the game in Knoxville. Oh,
Well, they get their shot in a couple of weeks.
We got to get Chris to go to bed. Matt, tell him it's bedtime.
All right, Blake, your parting thoughts.
I have nothing else to add. I'm sure. Go back and watch my facial expressions in the final 2.5 minutes of that game, and that's all you need to know. But yeah, again,
Yeah.
my closing thoughts are just. I always say this, but like we do appreciate you guys. I mean, it's a Saturday night. Some people it's 11:40 something. Some people it's 10:40 something. Some people it's 8:40 something. But we appreciate you guys watching. This is the most fun thing we do each week is the Saturday night live stream. So we appreciate you guys having fun with us here. So
Yeah. In all seriousness, prayers to everybody in the South and on the East Coast who've been affected by the weather. I mean, just seeing this stuff in Asheville, awful. Like I don't know how you're going to get around in that town. I think I saw today all the interstates have been washed out on 26 and 40 at some point. I think eastbound and westbound. I know they weren't the only place that got hit. On a day like this, and we kind of get in our own little cocoon with SEC football, but just watching that, the damage at different places, prayers to those people, and hopefully that they can rebuild quickly. What an awful thing to go through. But in any case, thank you all for watching. God bless you all. Have a great rest of the weekend, and we'll see you back again Monday with power rankings. We'll roll out predictions for next week. And, of course, we've always got baseball and basketball content even in the off season. So be sure to check that out. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't, and hit the like button. That helps our analytics, and visit our sponsors. Anyway, for Chase Robinson and Blake Lovell, I'm Chris Lee. You've been watching Southeastern 16 presented by Bet Online.